Hello and good afternoon. Hello, kings. Hello, queens. Hello, beautiful people. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening. From wherever you're watching. Hi there. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello there. I'm live. It's Anastasia. I'm live here. Good afternoon, MJ. Lovely to see you. Today is all about the HMT. It's all about the HMT. Good afternoon, Jake Hockey. Today is all about the HMT. It's all about the HMT. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Sorry, some of you can't mention your name. I do apologize. Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. We are live and we are going to be looking at the lessons and my experience about the HMT. It's going to be an amazing afternoon, guys. An amazing afternoon. I can't wait to share my journey with you. Even though I'm going to be talking and sharing about HMT, it is still about my life story. Good afternoon, Queens. Good afternoon, Stella. So even though it is, it hasn't been titled My Life Story, everything I do here is about my life story. It's about the lessons I'm learning, the things I'm dealing with, the things that I'm shedding, because actually we are supposed to be growing from glory to glory to glory to glory to glory. So yeah, much about what I share is going to be about my life story. So good afternoon, Queen Chinwe. Thank you for coming and joining me. So today is all about the HMT. HMT. Can you rock with me? HMT. Oh, it's good it's good to have fun. It's good to have them. Hold on a second. Let me just have a sip of water. I came back. I picked up a bag from what do you call it? Kiev, and I've been in bed since Tuesday. But glory be to God, I'm out of bed and I'm with you live today. So one second. Good afternoon, Chisandra. Good afternoon, Prince. Thank you guys for taking time of your busy schedule to be with me. So, first of all, if I can please ask you, to hit your share buttons, as I go along or whatever, just hit that share button, and so that somebody out there can be blessed as the same way that somebody hit their share button and I found out about Pastor Sunday, and I'm a blessed, child of God too. Yes, it's all about the HMT. You got it, Jake? HMT. It's all about the HMT. Good afternoon, John. Thank you for joining me live this afternoon. As you may now gather, it's about the HMT. HMT. I'm going to start because I don't know how I'm going to be able to pack so much in little a time, and I don't really want to hold you for long. Good afternoon, Olayinka. Lovely to have you on board. Good afternoon. So I'm going to start. So basically, HMT, my experience started way before the HMT itself. Oh, good afternoon, Tolin. Nice to have you. Good afternoon. Where is Where's Gloria? Tell her to come on board as well. Anyway, so so let's start. So as I say, my HMT experience started way before the HMT itself. It started the very day, if you remember, guys, all you who are on good afternoon, King Yomi. It started the day that Pastor Sunday announced in December that we were going to have the HMT. So I thought, hang on there, what do I hear there? Did I hear that? Did I hear something? Because I think I missed which one was it? There was one before which I missed and I wasn't able to go. I can't remember which month it was. So as soon as I heard that as soon as I heard that we're going to be doing one in January, I went, really? Really? Then I can't afford to miss it. So I began to, put things in motion. Now, I just want you to pay attention about the things that were happening. Some of the things I've already shared whilst it was being videoed, in Ukraine. So this is pre-HMT. So the first thing I did was, at the time it was during Christmas, and I decided, to get a job. Most of you may know that I'm doing my own personal projects. I'm at a place where I can now, follow the things that God has called me to do. Yes, I know there are a lot of things I'm encountering, but I am on that road. So, and like I said before, good afternoon, Patty. Lovely to have you. And like I said before, I want to be real with you, because the more real we are in sharing our difficulties and challenges, the more we can see that actually that, what you're going through, what I'm going through is no big deal, that we're all going through one thing or another. All of us, all of us are going through one thing or another. And so that helps us to live authentic lives, rather than the pretense and the masks that we put up. Anyway, so I got a job with Royal Mail as a Christmas casual worker, which involves sorting out the mail. And I must be honest with you, oh my goodness, even though I've done it before and I've enjoyed the experience before, shift one was extremely difficult. I was doing the 2 to 10 shift, and obviously the aim of doing this was to gather money together to be able to pay for my ticket to go for the HMT experience. And I remember, on my first shift, after finishing the first shift, I didn't want to go back. I was so exhausted. I already know that the job is very tedious. You're on your feet, you're on your feet non-stop, apart from the 15-minute or 20-minute tea break that you get, and you're constantly using your arms, your shoulders, because you're sorting mail, and so you're constantly, and it is very, very, very exhausting. And I remember that after day one, I thought, oh, you know what, I don't think I can do it. But then it was all about the HMT. HMT. Every time I wanted to give up, with the Royal Mail, because I was by the time I get home at 10 o'clock, I am totally exhausted. I can't even feel my body. But then it was the HMT that kept me going. So that was one, overcoming the exhaustion, having the picture before you, having that picture before you. And whatever you're designed to do, having a picture and an image, the end goal helps you to overcome. So that's my first learning experience. And then, pardon me, this cold has made my throat become very dry. Good afternoon, King Afolabi. Good afternoon, Queen Elizabeth. Thank you. Chief Sandra. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that was the first I had to overcome. The next bit I had to come was the fact that my husband was not going to be able to come along with me. Initially, he was going to come along, but then because business was calling, he couldn't make it. And I hated the idea that he wasn't going to come along, because my husband is fun to travel with. He's just a wonderful, wonderful person, and that was the first one. And then the second one was the fact that I didn't like traveling in the air alone. I didn't like flying alone. And I had to deal with the fact that, look, Anastasia, it's all about the HMT. You were going to have to fly alone. I don't like going through the customs. I don't like going through the controls. I don't like sitting in the plane alone. I don't like takeoff. I don't like all those things when it comes to, to flying. But I had to deal with it because it was all about the HMT. So as much as I'm laughing, I'm putting before you the things that I had to deal with before, and this is all part of the HMT experience, And then another thing Another fear that I had to deal with was the fact that about assignments. I said, oh my God, we're going back to the classroom scenario. Now, some of us have had bad experience when it comes to school, education, and all that. And these have a way of rearing their ugly heads. And, it has a way of rearing its ugly heads. And I had to deal with that as well. So I'm being honest with you guys. I'm being honest with you guys. So I had to deal with that as well, because it was coming up, about assignments, classroom, and all. But it was about the HMT. Another phobia, another thing I had to deal with was about staying up late. Now, I'm a person that I do a lot of self-education. I do a lot of research, so I use my mind a lot during the day. When I'm doing my project stuff, I'm a self learner. I love to teach myself. I love self education actually more than the classroom, the academic settings. I just love to learn, so I'm always feeding my mind, sponging on all that. And so by the evening, my mind tends to be tired, exhausted. So then I was thinking, oh gosh, by 8 o'clock, my 8 o'clock is my shutdown time. Begin to shut down mentally and everything. But I'm hearing that we're gonna have to be doing we're gonna have to be sacrificing our sleep, and we'll have to be doing our assignments during the night and all that. So that was also sitting on my mind. But I said, you know what, it's all about the HMT, and it's about me meeting my mentor in the flesh, and going for this training anyway. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about HMT for those of you who have never been to HMT and you've never heard about it. So let me just read what is HMT. Well, HMT obviously stands for History Makers Training, organized by Pastor Sunday Adelaja, and it is an accelerated and intensive leadership training, several weeks of work condensed into 4 days. So several weeks, which is condensed into 4 days. And then also it's training for long-term results, and this will change how you approach your life and achieve your goals. For true. It's also about reaching targets through self-discipline, sacrificing sleep. I'm going to hold myself there. And then also it's about fine-tuning time management. Big time. So the goals and expectations for HMT were as follows. It's all about raising the level of your discipline. Oh my God. Yes. My level of discipline was real. All of us were there. Yes. If you think you're disciplined in your approach to your life purpose and all your activities, wait till you get to HMT. And the next one is that you learn how to stay focused on what you're doing. Very true. Very true. Third, we improve your efficiency. Number 4, you develop a desire for productive work. And number 6, you develop the ability to work independently. Number 7, you get to know God in a new way. Oh yes, you get to know God in a new way. So these are the goals and expectations for everyone who who applies or who will apply to go for HMT. Now I left on the 1st of January. Pardon me, I left on the 1st of January, around, I think the flight was, I think, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and got there around 8:30. So now we're getting in, we're getting further into HMT. So I got to the airport. Forgotten the name. Is it Borispil? I think the name is Borispil International Airport. Oh, hello, Frank. Oh, Frank, the cameraman. Welcome, Frank. Hello. Oh, hello, Tawanda. Good. Oh, wonderful to see you guys. Hello, Mo. Hi there. Hi there. I'll be drinking water from time to time. God, I've got a cold. And pardon me. So we got there, and I was met by wonderful Igor. I don't know whether any of you have heard his name. He's one of Pastor Sandy's assistants. He came to pick me up from the airport. I didn't even recognize that he recognized me. What a wonderful, humble guy. Oh my goodness. And a big shout out to you, Igor, if you're watching me. Thank you so much for all your kindness, all your attention, all your love. He came with his wife to pick me up from the airport. Pardon me. Excuse me. At the airport, Um, from the airport to Pastor Sunday's beautiful place is about a little over an hour. A little over an hour. So we got there, I think around 9 something. Can't remember what the time is because the time difference is, I think it's plus, is it plus 2? I think over there is plus 2 hours. Yeah, I think it's plus 2. So anyway, we got there and he had already started his broadcast. So I just sneaked in quietly, sat down, and until the broadcast finished. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. 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 And once it was done, guys, Pastor Sunday went down on his knees, held his hands together, and began to welcome me, welcome Anastasia. I mean, which mentor goes down in his knees to welcome their mentee? Hi, Zoe, my darling, my sweet daughter. Good afternoon. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I know, which mentor goes down on his knees to welcome the mentor. He gave me the most amazing welcome, and not only that, he gave me the biggest hug. You missed that one. The biggest hug that I've ever received from a human being, and then said, Anastasia, welcome home, welcome home. This is your home. That was Pastor Sunday. Welcome, Anastasia. This is your home. I felt like, I was walking on cloud nine. It was just amazing to see him in the flesh. When you've been listening to Pastor Sunday and you're being mentored him from afar, there's nothing that can compare with meeting him in the flesh. Honestly, guys. So that was my learning point from there, because we're talking about what I learned. My learning point from there was humility, servanthood. I was being taught how to, I was being taught how to respond. It doesn't matter who you are, you know how to humble yourself, even to the most lowest person. And I was seeing it right in front of me. So that was my learning point. Anastasia, you see how it is done? It doesn't matter who you are, you lower yourself. As the Bible said, if you want to be first, you must be last. If you want to be at the top, you must learn to be at the bottom. So I got my first lesson there about humility, about lowering yourself. Oh my goodness. And so that was in, and then there was lovely, yes, Frank says, I agree with you, he is a great man. Yes. And my next experience was with Pastor Natalia. Pastor Natalia is another lovely woman. Shout out to you, Pastor Natalia. She, amongst other things that she does, she's responsible for board, so board accommodation and meals. She oversees everything. She made sure that I was okay. She was just all the time making sure that I was happy, that I was okay, and with the most kindest attitude, the most kindest heart. A big shout to you, Pastor Natalia. So there it was. I was seeing things being modeled right before me, and so I'm picking this up. It's not about whether you're a pastor, whether you are, excuse me to say, whether you're a GO or whether you're the Lord or whether you're the mayor. Everybody has a heart of humility, a heart of servanthood, a heart to want to make, a heart to make I don't know how to say, I don't know how to explain it, a heart to make you feel good, to make you important. Everybody is important. Nobody is above each other. That's the setting. That's the spirit in Pastor Sunday's house. And oh my goodness, the magnitude of Pastor Sunday's house, it is humongous. The two houses, I think it's 15 rooms on one side and 15 rooms on the other. Is it 15 or 15 or 30 or 30? I've forgotten. But anyway, they are massive. So anyway, so the first night we were able to go to sleep. There was no assignment. I was so happy because I was a bit scared. I said, oh my God, if HMT is going to start that night, I'm tired and I'm not going to make it. But we had a free night sleep. And little did I know what was waiting for me. I was still sad that my husband couldn't come along with me. But Pastor Natalia said that, Anastasia, I have a surprise for you. I'm thinking, what kind of surprise? I mean, what kind of surprise would you have for me? I mean, I was trying to think, what kind of surprise? I'm thinking, oh, that's lovely to have a surprise. And so Later on, I found out that the surprise was Lady Nkiro. Lady Nkiro was my roommate. Oh, it was the most wonderful surprise. I'm sure all of you know Lady Nkiro, the fashionista, the lovely, the lady that dresses so lovely, with finesse and all that. She was my roommate, and no, she didn't really come for the HMT because she's been through several. She said before, she's been through about seven. But she came so that she could see me. So she was my roommate, and that was the beginning of a lovely, lovely, wonderful experience with Lady Nkiro. I mean, she was a big part in making my experience HMT amazing, amazing, amazing. So that was a surprise, and I think that was so lovely for Pastor Natalia and Nikiro and herself to arrange. Isn't that very loving and thoughtful for them to have done that? Yeah, so that was the night done. Anyway, so that was, the night went over, and then the real day began. HMT day one. Welcome to boot camp. Are you guys there? Was it Tawanda? Were you there? I can't remember whether you were there, because I'm not familiar with all of the names. But Frank, you were there. Oh, welcome to boot camp day one. And our lovely, 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 lovely drill sergeant was a wonderful person called Babushka. She is very, very, very strict. And if you guys think you're going to HMT to go and chill and then I'm sorry, then don't go for HMT. It's a very regimented environment, but a loving environment. And the lady that facilitates all that her name is Babushka, very young lady. No, so let me go through some of the things that the disciplines that we were taught and we abided by. Let me go to my notes. Meal times. So we were split into two groups, the 7:30 and the 8 o'clock. 7:30, 8 o'clock. So for those of us, I was in the 7:30 group, where you have to be there for breakfast for 7:30, be there prompt. And then there was 8 o'clock. So you had to make sure that you were there. There were a couple of times, yes, I was late. Apologies. That was very strict. Secondly, we had to look at was our assignments. Assignments were given every night. The assignments came sometime, I think it was after midnight. I think they came at 1 a.m., either 12. Basically, the assignments came, they were sent by email after 12 a.m. Yes, 12 a.m. So, and then the deadlines to finish your assignments were 7 a.m. in the morning. So imagine if training or teaching has carried on from morning right up until, let's say, midnight. You get your assignment, and then you had to make sure that you did it, and you had to make sure you emailed it before 7 a.m. So that was the assignment. And then there were books to read. We had to read a book every night, apart from Thursday and I think Thursday and Friday. We had to also review a book. So apart from the assignments they were given, you had to review a book. You had to read one whole book, and then review it the following day. Another one was prayer time. So before Pastor Sunday will come in, we'll have to we had prayer time, and a prayer leader was selected to lead us in prayer, and the prayer leader had to make sure that they had to finish the prayer right on time. If they finish 1 minute late, you're in trouble. If you finish 1 minute afterwards, you'll be in trouble. Everything was on point. Very much discipline. Also, another thing, lateness in class was unacceptable. You have to make sure you are there on time. Another thing was there was no talking in class. So all these things I mentioned, so the meals, assignments, prayer time, being punctual in class, talking in class. If you did any of the two, you would either get a red dot, a blue dot, a black dot, and if it was that serious, you were told that you will be sent home. You would be sent back home. But later on, but later on, the new thing was that if you fell into one of those situations, serious situations, then you would stand the whole session. So you can imagine all this, the teaching sessions that are going on, that they're quite lengthy and quite long. So imagine having to stand throughout. So it was a very strict regimen, but a very loving environment, and I really love that for it. I really applaud I don't know whether she's a pastor, Pastor Babushka, but she did a brilliant job in making sure that we were all, all in alignment. So pardon me, let me just take a sip of water. MJ says it sounds very much like a school and even far intense. Oh yes, like I said, it's a 5-day intensive leadership training. So we're talking about leadership here, so we have to learn to be good leaders. So time and ordering. So yes, it was really, really intense. And Babushka, she's a no nonsense girl. She's a no nonsense, very firm but fair. And so I like the fact that I was learning about because one thing I realized when it comes to Christendom, we always do things, or we say things, but it's God. We don't tend to give the same sense of excellence, attention, and finesse when it comes to the things of God. We tend to play things down. Hello, Shigo. We tend to play things down and say, yeah, but it's good. We may not say it with our words, but our attitude is more like that. We tend to be like, oh yeah, but it's God. But no, not with Pastor Sundays. Or no, you're learning to be a leader. So I really appreciated the fact that I was being trained, to discipline my time, to appreciate time, to look at my whole life and how I respond, to situations, to the things of God, to my friends, and all that. That was a very good training for myself. I cannot speak for other people, but I do guess we're all on the same length. So I really thank God for that. Now, once the prayer is over, then we have obviously Pastor Sunday that comes in, and we begin the teachings. Excuse me. We begin having our long lengthy teachings. I must say that for day one, when we finished everything, it was a very long day, and I was really, really concerned about how I was going to handle, as I said before, how I was going to respond, or to keep up late to do the assignments. And now by the time we got back on day one, I was really, really exhausted. And the fact that I remember that day one, I finished my assignment around 5 a.m. 5 a.m. in the morning. 5 a.m. Pardon me. So the assignment, the first book we reviewed, we were put in 3 groups, was, I think, insulted by ungodliness. I think it was insulted by ungodliness. Yes. And so having to learning to to skim read, because I mean, how am I going to read a whole book by itself? So I was basically looking out for the main things for myself, the main points. And then later on, what happened was what the wisdom that came out was everybody should read a chapter of the book. So everybody takes one chapter, and then we come to review it. But my first night was quite short. So I slept around 5 a.m. and almost missed my breakfast time, because I didn't realize that I didn't realize that it was time for breakfast. It was 7:30. So learning to jump out of bed and have your bath quickly, that was another skill to learn. Thank God for Lady Nkiru who waked me up, else I would have been in trouble, quote unquote, in trouble. So yes, that was discipline in your face, Anastasia. And then day two, we had the students come in. So first of all, it was just me, myself, and in Kiro, where I was living. And then the students came in, the lovely students, about, I can't remember how many of them. They're probably about, is it 20, 30? I can't remember. So the bathroom became an experience. How do we have our bathrooms? I remember one day I was seriously in trouble. I just had to jump into my clothes and head for, what do you call it, head for classes, and later go and do my thing. Now, one thing with Pastor Sunday is, one of the things I learned from Pastor Sunday, when he is teaching you, what he likes to find out from you is, what have you learned? Is so important to him. He doesn't want to, what's the word, how we do back home, you chew and pause. So you get the information and then you repeat it back to him. He doesn't like that. He wants to know whether you've understood what is being taught. So this is what he looks for. Number one, what are the lessons that you have learned? So I'm giving you these what do you call, so for those of you who are planning to go in April, and I'm definitely going in April. Number one, what have you learned? Hi, Davida. What have you learned? What have you learned from what he's taught? And you need to explain this to him. Number two, why is it important to you? So what you've learned right now, why is it important to you? Why is it important to you, to me, and to other people? That's the second thing. Number three, how are you going to implement what you've learned? How are you going to implement it? So in your experience, how are you going to implement that? And anytime Pastor Sunday asks a question, you better jump up. Because if no one jumps up, that means every single one of us or you will have to answer the question. So you just imagine, there was one day it happened. One day, none of us got up. And so I think the 40 of us, one by one, had to answer. So by the time we finished, it was after midnight. And after midnight, you now have to go and do your assignment. And just imagine you sitting under teaching for a long time. You're sitting down. So, that takes a bit of toll on you. And you've been there the whole day. And then also, the whole class has to give these answers. And then you have to go and do your homework. Just imagine. It happened one day. So just to encourage you, this is how Pastor Sunday likes it. So number one, what lessons have you learned from what he's taught? Number two, why is that lesson why is that lesson for you? Why what does it mean to you? He also wants you to use what he's teaching to apply it. And then number three, how are you going to implement it? So for example, we did, if you remember, the first teaching session we had was how to kickstart your new year with the power of restraint. How to kickstart your new year with the power of restraint. And we were taught what restraint is. I'm looking at the time. I don't want to keep you for long. Pardon me. I'll just take some water. My throat is feeling dry because of the cold. And so it took us what restraint is and how it will help you make important decisions, how to catapult you into your new year. And I'm just going to read and go through the different ones that he gave us. So point number one was just going to quickly have my notes. If you remember, point number one was the power of constraint on your desires, aspirations, and passions. If you remember, the power of constraint on your desires, aspiration, and passion. So what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you? How are you going to implement this power of constraint on your desires, aspiration, and passion? That is what he wants. And then point number two. Point number two was the power restraint to control your mind. How are the 3 points that I gave you? How are you going to apply these in a practical way to your mind? Number three, the power restraint to manage your environment. How are you going to apply those three that I gave you on your mind? And I'm going to give you a typical example how I answered mine in a minute. The power of restraint on routines and your vision. Hi Stella, how are you going to apply these on a personal level that it will make a difference in your life? Number four, number five, the power restraint on your time. How are you going to apply, and what does it mean to you when it comes to your time? Number six, the power restraint to responding to interferences. How are you going to do those things, answer those and apply them on your time? And then number seven, last of all, was the power restraint in relation to church activities. How are you going to do this? Thank you. Oh, Jude says, thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you too. How are you going to apply all these when it comes to church activities? So I'm just going to read out one that I that I did. So here's how I answered the power of constraints on my desires, aspirations, and passions. This is how I answered it. I understand that I have latent power, energy inside of me, which I can pull out to make productive constraint on my desires, again, aspirations, passions that will facilitate my calling and assignment. I'll read that again. I understand that I have latent power and energy. Not forgetting that Pastor Sandy told us that that restraint is latent energy. So I understand that I have latent power, energy inside of me, which I can pull out to make productive constraints on my desires, aspirations, passions that will facilitate my calling and assignments. For example, I am a self-learner and I've always enjoyed self-education. Before HMT, I thought I was doing a pretty good job with the selection of my TV programs, because some of my self-education programs are also on TV, apart from social media. So apart from in the internet, there are certain programs that I've selected as part of my self-education. So I said that before HMT, I thought I was doing a pretty good job with the selection of TV programs I scheduled as part of my self-education program. These included Housewives of Atlanta and other reality shows, as I love to watch I love to watch and observe human behavior and responses, which is psychology, in different scenarios, especially amongst female Black Americans who have some status and influence. So I thought I was doing a pretty good job with my selection of TV programs, but I realized I can do better. So here's what I also wrote. I have decided to review, fine-tune, and upgrade these TV programs that I've scheduled for my self-education by choosing what is best as opposed to good. I put a restraint between best and good to choose those ones that are most in alignment with what God has called me to. So what I realized was that I was choosing good as opposed to best. And I realized that I could fine-tune my self-education programs from TV, from the good to the best. As much as I was, learning and then learning about psychology and learning about how female Black women of influence behave in different scenarios, I realized that it was not the best. It was not the best. It was good. So that was one. So I have decided to review, fine-tune, and upgrading. Another one was this means reducing. This also means me reducing and unsubscribing to any irrelevant content which comes through my email subscriptions, YouTube, Instagram, Google Plus, and other social media. So I do subscribe to, what I feel is like self-education, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, whether it be Google Plus, whether it be, social media. So I realized that to put a good constraints on self-education, I need to reduce some of them. Some of them I need to delete. Some of them I need to unsubscribe so that I have the best of content helping me. So that was me answering the question to the power of constraints on my desires, aspirations, and passions. I realized that I was not doing. Good afternoon, Gladys. I was not doing a brilliant job there, And then also when it comes to diet, I'm a health freak. I'm a health freak. I'm a health freak in a good way, as I'm learning to eat stuff which is plant-based rather than processed food. I'm not very much into processed food. The only thing that I'm processed is like pizza and all that. But even with my my plant-based food, I realized that, now listen to this. I realized I need to put a restraint on my diet. Now, for us African folks, is something you may also want to look at. You look at I'm in my 50s now, and I realized as a 54, I'm going to be 54 this year, as a 53 going 54-year woman, the needs of my body has changed. I cannot be eating certain stuff that I used to eat. I want to, and I need to put constraints. I need to review the needs of my body. Number one, as a 50-year-old, I need to also look at the foods that are doing damage to my body, that are not helping. So something like milk and other cow milk and all the rest, I realize that they have not been helping me, and I have to put a constraint on my diet. I realize that sugar is something I need to cut out. If I do have any sugar at all, it will be as close to as what you could natural, which is honey. And this is me come to HMT, learning how to put constraints, because if I want to fulfill the purpose that God has given to me, if I want to do that, because God needs my body, and for it to be in its optimum form, then I have to put these constraints, restraints with the things that goes through my mouth. So whilst everybody else may be eating their chocolate, I cannot eat chocolate. I may have to look for an alternative, something that is closer to nature. So do you get what I'm coming from? This is what I learned from the power of restraint. Understanding that it is not about me, it is about God, who has given me this body, and therefore I cannot live anyhow. And if you remember, do you remember that Pastor Sunday, I'm almost going to end here because time is going, I don't want to keep it for long. You remember Pastor Sunday got as the mentees to do this long line in the room. And so there was just this very narrow line that was there, and he couldn't go anywhere. So he walked through it. So that narrow line was keeping him focused and in one direction, so that he could achieve his goal. And that's how God wants us to live our lives. And that's what I learned, the power of restraint when it comes to my passion, desire. I'm just giving an example out of the one. Pardon me. Jude says you love it. I'm very grateful. So I learned that about the power of the power of restraint. And so we learn obviously about the mind and all that, and I know if you go back to your notes, you pick up on those ones. I also learned about the whole, I don't know, it is not only humility. I learned Pastor Natalia one moment is overseeing board meal, etc. The next minute she is lecturing us. She's right in the front, teaching us. So I learned that as a leader, one moment you can be cleaning the toilets, and another moment you could be on the platform. There's nothing too above you that you don't do as a leader. Pardon me. Pardon me. Gladys says you're very addicted to sugar. Pardon me. I understand that, Gladys, but when you go back to watch the power of restraint, you realize how much you need this in following God's purpose for your life. Because if your body is sick, now sometimes there's this oh my, I'm just looking at time. When you're younger, you have this false illusion that I can get away with anything. But trust me, these things have a way of catching up in the form of diabetes, etc., etc. I'm not a doctor, but I do know. I've done a bit of working in the medical field as a health assistant, working with doctors, and so these things have a way of catching up you later on in life. By the time it catches up with you, you wonder, how did I get it? But it's years of accumulating sugar in your body, etc., etc. So I'm not going to go there, but those were the things I learned. I learned about humility. I learned about discipline. I learned about sacrificing sleep. I'm conscious of the time. Because I don't want to rush with what I would ask of you, that would you guys like if I continued the lessons learned from HMT? Would you want me to continue? If you want me to continue, could you please let me know so that I can take my time a bit more and break things down? Or would you wish that this will be, because I've got more to share and I'm really conscious of the time here. So could you please let me know, and either in the inbox or yeah, or the views, or yeah, anything, or right now, just let me know. I'm gonna stop here because it's 2:45. I've been here on with you 45 minutes. I don't really want to keep your time. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask me? So I'm waiting for your questions. But so far, like I said to you, I've learned about sacrifice. I've learned to deal with fears, childhood fears rearing their head up. I've learned about humility. I've learned about discipline in the classroom. Just because we're Christian doesn't mean excellence goes out the window. Doesn't mean you can do things anyhow. Jude Beckle says that is good idea. Keep it up. Okay, you please continue. Okay, so I will continue next week. So yeah. So like I said, doesn't mean you can do things. You can have a lackadaisical attitude. You can just walk into the classroom anytime you want. No. Also, I've learned about, did I say humility? Watching the leaders themselves live a humble life. The whole atmosphere of Pastor Sandy and the staff is just, everybody needs to go to HMT. You need to go for HMT. It will just, my whole life has been transformed, growing my mindset. I have a deep appreciation for Pastor Sandy Adelaja, what he does. There's other stuff that I haven't told you yet, so which I'll share next week by God's grace. I have a deep reverence for the fact that somebody so great can be so humble and love. Pastor Sandy loves people. He really, it is not an act. He really, really does love people. And I just want to encourage that if you want to be, what's the word? If you want to be that special kind of person, then continue, sitting under Pastor Sunday Dalaja. King Yomi says, continue with ATM experience, please. Okay, thank you very much. So I would definitely continue next week and share my life experience with all of you. What I want to say, it is I am 53 going 54, and I don't say this, but I'm saying it because of this. I have never experience something so transformational, so monumental in my life, apart from the day that I got born again, and apart from the day that I had this encounter with another sister. This one I will never forget. My experience at HMT. It is the molding of my life. It is the reality. In fact, let me say this before I go. When I go to Kiev, Pastor Sunday, I said to him that now I feel at home. I now, and I think I said in one of the broadcasts with Pastor Sunday, I now feel I am home. I've always had this, even though I've been a Christian for a long time, I've always had this elusive that something is missing. I don't know what it is. What is it? But I told Pastor Sunday, I'm now home. And he said to me, the reason why you're saying this, reason why you experience this is because you have encountered the kingdom. The kingdom of God is in Pastor Sunday's house. There's no way you will not feel different. There's no way you not feel different. Shiko says, I thought my encounter with you was monumental. Yes, lady Shiko, it was monumental, but it can never be compared to meeting Pastor Sunday in the flesh. There's just something you experience the tangibility of being home. And all I can say is that because Pastor Sunday carries the presence of God, so let's not forget that it is the God in Pastor Sunday that you experience. It is the kingdom come, thy kingdom come, the kingdom of heaven, which is in all of us, is so tangible when you're in his presence, when you're in that home. And so now the longing for and the searching for what is over. I'm home. I'm home. Can you see it in my face? I'm home now. I'm home. I'm not looking anymore. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens. I hope this brief introduction has done something for you. And by God's grace, I will continue next week. If you have any questions, please put your questions. So questions that you want about HMT, so I make it more relevant to you. It's not really about me, it's about all of us. So we all learn together. If you've got any questions, put them down so that I'm able to answer them next week. Thank you so much for being with me this afternoon. I love you guys lots. I love you loads. You're my family. You're the family I have been looking for, apart from my family. And I love you very much, kings and queens. You mean the world to me. God richly bless you. God richly bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Frank. Frank, you guys, you need to hear about Frank. You need to hear about Frank next week. Thank you, Euphemia. Thank you, Chigo. Thank you. Let's see. Am I missing anybody? Thank you, Jude. Thank you, Gladys. Thank you. Thank God. Who else is there? Thank you, MJ. Thank you, wonderful people. I love you and adore you loads. Bye-bye, beautiful people. See you next week. Bye. Bye. Bye, Stella. Bye. Bye, Jude. Bye. Bye. Love you loads. Your lovely family. I appreciate you. Don't take it for granted. Bye, Patty. Bye, MJ. Love you loads. Bye. See you next week. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.